What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a banger of a video. I hope you guys enjoy this one. Drop a like if you do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and also go follow my new Instagram at TheGBLN. I'm going to link it in the description. If you haven't followed me already, what are you waiting for? Listen, I might follow a few people back tonight. I'm feeling very generous. Maybe more than a few. We'll see. But go show me some love and follow me on Instagram at TheGBLN. Instagram banned me twice now. Third time is hopefully not the charm here, okay? I hope they don't ban me a third time. Let's hope everything works out, please. Listen, I know Mark Zuckerberg is probably not actually a human. That guy acts like a robot, but the least he could do is maybe get one of the real humans that works for him to unban me. That would be really sick. But either way, that's beyond the point of this video, all right? I hope you guys enjoy this one. Let's dive right into it. So, this happened a couple years ago in the spring of 2019. This was just right before my big Coke binge that resulted in the series that you guys know as Coke Chronicles. Now, during this phase in my life, I kind of was doing pretty well, if I'm being totally honest. I mean, I was starting to get a decent following on YouTube, but I also wasn't a total raging Coke head yet. I was doing Coke a fair bit, yeah, more than I should be, but I wasn't a full-blown Coke addict at this point yet, like I was, this upcoming summer. So I had a fair bit of money to play around with, and my good friend Tim was going to help me spend it. Now, some of you guys might remember Tim from one of my older videos. Not one, actually, quite a few of my older videos, but one in particular where I talked about the time, where I kind of called him out for staining some money from me. Me and Tim are no longer friends, and we haven't been since that incident, but this took place probably like 4 or 5 months before that even happened, so everything was fine and dandy at this point between us. Just wanted to clarify that. But on this fine day, I had the house all to myself. I still lived with my mom, and she had left for a couple days to go over to her new boyfriend's house. She had gotten into a relationship, a couple months prior, so I had a lot of free time at the house. She was not home very often, Now, at the time, it's kind of funny. She didn't tell me that she was dating this guy. She would just lie about it. So at the time, I thought that she was just going out with her friends for a couple of days. Probably should have known better, but whatever. That's not the point, all right? The point is, I had the house to myself. So I called up my boy at the time named Tim, and I said, Tim, get your ass over here. Let's have some fun. I got the house to myself. Let's get faded. Let's do something. So Tim said, bet. He comes over in maybe 10 minutes. He lived fairly close to me, and we're hanging out at my place. We're trying to figure out what to do with the day. He had brought over a little bit of weed, and I still had a little bit of weed left, but we were running low. We wanted to grab some more, so we opted to go to the dispensary. We drove to the dispensary in his car, and while we were on our way, I was kind of scrolling through a menu, the menu, trying to decide what to get. We decided to get ourselves a decent amount today. Now, Tim had a limit per month. I don't remember exactly what the limit was, but I remember that with this purchase, he'd said that we'd gotten pretty close to it, but we picked up an ounce on this day, which was most of what the limit that he had left for the month. I think his total limit was like maybe an ounce and a half, 2 ounces. I'm not really sure. But either way, we opted to split an ounce of flour between the two of us. We said, fuck it. Let's spend some money. Let's get some good weed. Now, medical weed prices back then were also not bad at all. Illinois prices right now are really jacked up and super trash. But back in the day, I mean, $45 eighths were fire, like super gas, So prices were really not too bad. I mean, yeah, 45 is a little much. I mean, realistically, it should be less, but hey, it's much worse now. So either way, we went to the dispensary that day, and he went inside and grabbed himself a beautiful, beautiful strain. This strain was called Aces High by a company called Grassroots. Now, I remember this strain like it was yesterday, and this strain you can actually still get in the dispensaries here. The thing is, the quality of it's gone way down because ever since recreational weed got legalized here, all these companies just started mass producing and not caring about quality anymore. So back then, this shit was really actually gas, and he came out of the dispensary a little while later. It took a little bit. I was waiting in the parking lot, kind of like a dog that got left in the car. I remember he turned the car off for some reason, and I was like, dude, I mean, that's just petty. Like, leave the keys in. But either way, he came back out with an ounce of bud, and now we're happy once again. we reunite with each other once he gets back in the car, and we cruise back to my place, and we opt to roll ourselves a nice little blunt. I roll up the classic Swisher Diamond, my OG smoke, can't go wrong. Nowadays, I don't smoke many of these, but back in the day, I mean, these were cheap and just the go-to, you know? So I rolled up a Swisher and we sparked that thing up, and I'm talking to him. I'm like, so what should we do today? You know, we were going through some options. I mean, maybe we could go to like Top Golf or something, but I was like, you know, we just spent a lot of money on weed. I don't really want to spend more money on anything other than weed, you know? Like if we're going to get wraps, sure, but like I don't really want to spend like $50 at Top Golf on top of this weed expense, you know? Cuz the dispensary weed even back then was still not very cheap, you know? It was definitely more expensive than if I had gone to the plug, but it was worth it. Now, we were bouncing ideas off each other, and I just randomly threw out there, I was like, what if we made some edibles? And Tim got very excited at this idea. He was like, yo, that sounds fantastic. Let's make some shit. Now, I'm not very good at making edibles. I've only done it a handful of times, but the only method I know of making edibles is making the oil. I personally have never made the butter. I know a lot of people go with the butter, and it seems like an easy method, but for me, I just always went with the oil. I feel like you can do so many different things just with that infused oil. The classic method is you get a pan going, you get some cooking oil in there. I haven't done this method since this day. This is literally the last time I did this. So I don't even remember what kind of oil I used. But either way, I got the pan going, got some oil going on low heat, and you just have to let it simmer and reek up your house forever. Now, I got the pan going and I was about to throw the weed in, but I was like, what are we even making with this, We were going to just leave it on the pan and go to the store, but we were like, we should probably choose this before, we actually throw this in the pan, because it's a big commitment. We were putting I don't remember exactly how much the ounce cost. It's been like 3 years. I'd guesstimate this was probably at least $300 for the ounce, which is a very fair chunk of money. In some places, that's considered cheap, but that's a fair chunk of money for a lot of other places, and especially if you're buying non-dispensary. But for dispo weed, I feel like that's a pretty normal fee. But either way, this was a pretty expensive ounce, so I was like, we should maybe slow down and figure out what the fuck we're making. So we talk about it a little bit, and we opt for the classic brownies, but we don't want to just do any brownies. We want to make the strongest possible brownies. We're like, we should just make a really fucking small tray. I'm talking like the tiniest tray possible. So I started looking around the kitchen, and I can't find a small tray. I can't find one. I'm looking everywhere. All my mom's cooking trays are fucking giant. I don't know why she doesn't have a nice little tiny baking tray or something, but I mean, all the trays that we can make brownies in are just huge. So I'm looking around and I'm like, dude, I can't find shit. Unless my mom is stashing the little tiny trays for her own edibles, I don't think she's got any. So we're kind of going back and forth about what to do, and I'm like, well, what if we just get more weed? I mean, we don't have to get some gas. We're just cooking it down, We can just get some cheap shit to add on to this good ounce and go crazy. Now, we liked that idea. I had already had the oil in the pan, and I just turned that shit off. I was like, you know what? There's no weed in it yet. We'll just start that shit again later. So we turned the pan off, and we had already started grinding the weed, but not very much, because I spent more time getting the pan ready and looking around for a tray to later on bake the brownies in. My mom, luckily, was very into baking, so we didn't really have to go get very much, I don't know what it is. My mom has always just been mean as hell with baking. I've always told her, I'm like, you should go on one of those game shows, one of those Food Network shows. I mean, she's a dog when it comes to that shit. But either way, so we're kind of trying to figure out where to get this next little bit of weed and how much of it to get. We're going back and forth, and we decide to grab an extra ounce of just some mid, Nothing crazy. The highest price we were trying to pay was like $150 for the zip. So $75 on each of us, and then we'd make some fucking kick-ass edibles. So we're hitting up everybody, and finally I hit up Cody, and I say to Cody, I'm like, let me come grab an ounce from your brother real quick. I'll be in and out super fast. I need an ounce quick. He's like, yeah, come through. I don't know what he has, but you can ask him. So Luckily, Cody lived fairly close to me at the time, so me and Tim, we hopped in his car and just whipped on over to Cody's house and chilled in his garage for what felt like forever. I don't know what his brother was doing, but he would not come out of the house. I mean, this dude was in there for like 20 minutes. Finally, Cody's mom came into the garage, and I'm like, yo, can you just let Chris know we're here? Urgent business. And she's like, yeah, I got you, sweetie, don't worry. Nicest lady ever. She goes back in, gets Chris to come out, and finally, it is time to go. Now, I'm telling you guys right now, this weed was not great. I had specified that I didn't want his good weed. I was like, listen, whatever you have, I don't want the za, okay? I don't want the top shelf. I want the budget. I want the lows. We're making edibles. And he said, say less. I got you. He pulls out a Ziploc bag of just some half shake and half bullshit. And I'm like, how much is this? He goes, $120 right now. I shake his hand immediately. We're fucking out of there. We didn't even bring any of the other ounce to smoke a little bit. In fact, we didn't even put aside any of the other ounce. Tim happened to have an extra eighth, and he was like, we'll just grab some more weed, like, I don't know, some other way, because luckily, the way that your limit resets in Illinois with the medical program, it's not like one day every month your limit just goes back to zero. It goes down after 2 weeks of the purchase, right? So if you, I don't remember if it's 2 weeks or a month. I don't even have my med card anymore. I didn't renew it. Mine expired. But from what I think it's either 2 weeks or a month, eventually your limit will reset, just that amount though. So like if I bought an ounce today, in 2 weeks, I would get an ounce back on my limit. Instead of like, one day of the month, it just fucking resets. So luckily, all we had to do was wait a couple days. And since this guy was going to the dispensary so much, pretty much every day or almost every day, his limit would, get reset a little bit. So we were chilling. Now, once we grabbed this absolute bullshit ounce, some shit that I would really not want to put in my blunt, we get back to my house and we unload all the weed. I mean, we get going. We start grinding what there is to grind out of this mid ounce. We start finishing the grinding of the gas ounce, and we have got just a mess of ground up mids combined with ground up gas. Now, at this point, we still had not solved the baking sheet issue, but that's okay. We had double the weed, so we were just going to make a bigger fucking batch. I mean, so be it. I mean, I figured, normally, at least when I was younger, I would put like an ounce of weed in a small batch of brownies. And normally that ounce of weed would be garbage. So 2 ounces, I had done the math in my head and figured, wow, that's going to be pretty strong. And I'll tell you right now, they were. So we put this weed into the pan with the oil and let it simmer for what felt like an eternity. I would say it was probably like 2-3 hours, maybe a little more than that actually. But I'm telling you guys right now, if you live with your parents or you have a house where you can't have it smell like weed, this is probably the worst method of extracting your THC, right? This is just the least covert method possible because it absolutely fucking reeks. But we extract the THC after what felt like forever and get this shitty looking oil that just smells awful. And now the strat is you got to take a water bottle and put a coffee filter over the top. And that's how you filter this shit. It gets kind of disgusting because you get this just oily, disgusting brown weed that just smells awful. And the texture of it's so bad. It's like your hands are oily the whole time and you're just sitting there like, fuck, man. But finally, after getting through the gross part, we had a water bottle full of some oil, and we were ready to rumble. I mean, we were hype about this. I pulled out the smallest pan I could find, which was fairly small, and I pulled out some nice brownies. Now, you guys know the OG Betty Crocker brownies are the way to fucking go, dude. I mean, you seriously can't go wrong. I remember my mom used to make those when I was a kid, and I was thoroughly convinced they were homemade. It wasn't until I made edibles the first time with them myself that I realized, yo, she was capping, bro. She didn't do shit. This is a brownie mix, dude. Homemade. Are you shitting me? The back in the day, I thought these were the sweetest shit ever. So we busted out the classic Betty Crocker brownies that my mom always was toting on her. She loved to make the brownies. She loved to make Betty Crockers and then eat like 2 of them and let the rest of the tray go to waste. But either way, we get this brownie mix going. And, for those of you guys who aren't aware of making edibles, it's really easy after you've done this oil step. All you do is just replace the oil that's required for the brownie recipe with your THC oil, and you're done. That's it. You've made edibles. So from this point forward, all we did was just made brownies like anyone else making brownies would do it, So we got them in the oven. We're good to go. Now, this is a fat fucking tray. And once we finish baking this, we pull it out, and quite a bit of time had gone by. And we realized at this point that we didn't know what the hell we were going to do with these brownies. But the only thing we did know is we were definitely trying a little bit. We each cut ourselves a brownie and we ate it, and they tasted a little strong. I'm not going to lie. I mean, this is not the best method of concealing the taste, but you know what? They went down well enough. And I had kind of looked to Tim, and I said to him, I was like, so what are we doing with all these brownies? And he's like, I don't know, man. And I was like, I mean, we don't, we're not in high school anymore. We don't really sell weed that much. I mean, all my friends do cocaine or harder drugs now, they graduated, and the only kids I know who would buy my weed went to college. So, it was kind of a tough pickle I was in, because everyone I would hit up to buy these brownies would be like, no, I'm good. I want dispensary weed or I want cocaine. So we had kind of gone back and forth about what to do with these brownies. And finally I was like, yo, let's just eat fucking all of them. And he's like, the whole tray? And I was like, yeah, dude, just split it with me. I mean, have you eaten today? And he was like, no. And I was like, well, I haven't either. Let's fucking do it. So we just go for it. We just absolutely go for it. We split the tray right down the middle. I don't even bother cutting my shit into brownies, dude. I just scoop it out with the spatula and just put this shit on the biggest plate I had. And Tim did the same thing. And now we've each got a half tray of brownies here. I could not tell you what the dosage is on these, but I will tell you that this was, at the time, this was before I'd ever gotten into RSO. At the time, this was the highest I'd ever been off edibles. I ate my half of this as quickly as I could. And by as quickly as I could, I mean I really had to take my goddamn time. Because holy shit, trying to speed run brownies is not easy. They are very dense, they're very filling, and I feel like brownies, they like coat your throat, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was fucking dying by the end of this, but it took me probably like 45 minutes to eat all of these, because, I mean, I had to let it sit, I tried to eat it fast and not think about it, and so did Tim, but it didn't work. We really had to just kind of let it happen. But after we finished downing these brownies, we sat and waited for maybe another hour and did the classic, these edibles ain't shit. Now, you guys know as soon as you say that, you're in trouble. It's like a curse. It's like going in the mirror and saying Bloody Mary 3 times. You've just screwed yourself over, and that's exactly what we did. Not even an hour later, this shit hits me like a truck. I feel heavy. I feel stuck. I'm a little scared, if I'm being totally honest, because, for most of my younger life, I was under the impression that edibles just didn't get me very high. And all of a sudden, this shit happened. And I was fucking glued. And I look over to Tim and I'm like, yo, do you feel this shit yet? And he's like, yeah, dude, like, this is fucking crazy. Like, I don't know, like, I feel kind of nauseous, and I'm sitting there, and it feels like I'm going down the Tower of Terror, is that a Disney or Universal? That's Disney, right? I think that's Disney. Either way, I'm at Disney, going down the Tower of Terror, it feels like, right? It just feels like I've got this constant G-force, and that's a feeling that I've gotten used to with an extreme edible dose over time. But at this time, I had never been so high off edibles that I had felt it this intense. So I was kind of freaking out. I was like, dude, what the hell is happening to me? Tim was like, yo, I'll be right back. I don't feel so good. This guy goes into the bathroom and he vomits almost immediately. Like, I can hear him puking. It is violent. It is aggressive. Now, me, I'm absolutely off my rocker, out of my mind, faded. I don't know how I could even put this into words. The only time that I've been higher than this incident off edibles was the 5,000 milligrams of RSO that we did for 420. Besides that, I don't know if I can name many, if any, other instances that I was higher than this. just because I was not ready for this shit whatsoever. I didn't know what I had gotten myself into. I was sitting there thinking like, yeah, I'll feel pretty stoned. It might feel like I took a gram dab. No, dude. It felt like I just took 100 gram dabs. It felt like every time I tried to move a limb, it felt like the air around me was thick and it was fighting me. It didn't want me to. It was like, no, get your stoned ass down. So I sat down on the couch. I got up from the dining room and I went and sat on the couch in the living room. And I turned on the TV and I'm sitting there and I'm trying to read the subtitles. And I swear to God, I had a moment that I'll never forget. I looked at the subtitles on the TV and I couldn't fucking read them. I had gotten so high to a point that I can't read. I couldn't fucking read. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking and I'm like, bro, like I recognize the words, but like I wasn't processing the sentence together, you know? Like I'd look at the word on the subtitle and be like, yeah, okay, I know that word, but I couldn't like form the sentence. It's like there was a disconnect in my brain where the THC had come in and just gone, nope, yoink, you're fucking brain dead. What's up, retard? Enjoy. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, yo, come on, dude, this ain't even fair. Tim is still in my bathroom violently vomiting. Now, I didn't realize at this point that Tim had invited his girlfriend over without telling me. So someone comes in my house, and I'm sitting here thinking that I'm about to get robbed, and Tim set me up. I'm like, yo, dude, who's coming to kill me? But luckily, it's Tim's girlfriend, and she yells out almost immediately. She comes up and says hello to me, and she's like, you look fucking faded. I just kind of nod at her because I'm sweating and I can't think very hard. If I try to think any harder and form a sentence to her, I'd probably throw up. So I'm just going to sit there and enjoy how I'm feeling. And she asked me where Tim is. I tell her at this point that he's in the bathroom. So she goes and checks on him because obviously she can now hear him vomiting as well. This guy's been puking for like 10 minutes. I shit you not. So she goes and checks on him. Luckily, he ends up being all right. She brings him out. I don't know, she healed him or something in there. I don't know, maybe she gave him like a little tuggy or something. But either way, she healed him and he came out just fine. So he was lucky enough to throw up his high. He comes out and yeah, he was still faded, but I mean, he was not at the level that I was at. I was completely fucking gone. I was so high and I was sweating bullets so hard that my hair was just soaked by the time he had come out of the bathroom within 15 minutes. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, bro, I'm not going to lie. I might need to fucking, lay down or something. He's like, yeah, man, go for it. So I lay all the way down on the couch and I'm laying there and I'm looking up at the ceiling and it's almost like, it's really hard to describe. It was almost like I was looking through a fisheye lens, if that makes sense. Just the very edge of the things I was looking at was a little curved. It was like I was having some extremely slight visuals, I was so high, it was almost like I was tripping a little bit, just a pinch. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my fucking God, bro. I don't know what it was with this batch of edibles. I don't know if I had just done the oil absolutely perfectly. I don't know if it was the weed, but I was off my fucking rocker, dude. And oh my God, I was absolutely sent. So I'm laying there and I'm looking up and Tim and his girlfriend are just chatting at this point and I cash the fuck out. At first I try to fight falling asleep because I'm like, yo, dude, I want to experience this. I want to stay up. But I realize at this point that I'm so stuck that if I don't let myself fall asleep, I might just pass out unwillingly. So I just kind of folded and let it happen. No, I wasn't out for very long. Tim's girlfriend had woke me up maybe an hour later. She woke me up and she was like, hey, I think I'm going to take him home. And I'm like, okay. But I realized very quickly as I wake up that I'm still fucking blasted. I'm absolutely glued. Maybe a little bit less than earlier, but oh my God. I sat up, and it's when I sat up I noticed that I was high out of my fucking mind. I got up to try to walk her out of the house with Tim, and I dap up Tim, and I'm like, yo, dude, I'll see you tomorrow. And he's like, are you all right, man? And I'm like, I promise I'll be okay, my dude. And I'm like, how you feeling? He's like, I'm not really that high anymore. And I'm like, well, I mean, you spent like 15 minutes vomiting up the entire tray. So, obviously it kind of made sense that he wasn't very high anymore. So him and his girlfriend, they dip out. I've now got the house all to myself and my dog, who now needs to go outside and go to the bathroom because it had been a little while. I'm so blasted that I don't even know if I can make it back up to the front door, but I give it my goddamn best. I walk back up there and I put my dog on his leash, and I shit you not, I opened the door and I just sat on my porch and just let the leash extend as far as he wanted. I mean, I let that dude go as far as he wanted without my supervision. I just let the leash extend. I can't let him off the leash. He's a fucking idiot, dude. Any sound, that guy's gone. I'll never see him again. But like, if I just hold the leash and just let him go, he'll be chill. He'll come back eventually. So I'm sitting on the porch, letting him do his thing, and oh my God, I'm looking up at the stars and the fresh air. It's so nice. The vibe is on, dude. I don't know what it was, but everything just felt almost like surreal. It was almost like I felt like I was in a video game. I was so high. It was a really strange feeling. And, I don't know what word to really put to it, but everything just looked different, Everything almost looked like a model in a video game, Like, I don't even know how to describe it, but I just remember that I was so blitzed out of my mind, I didn't know what to do with myself. And honest to God, I was a little bit scared. I was like, dude, how long is this going to last? Like, I just took a nap and I'm still faded. So I brought Buddy back inside and let him off his leash. And I went down to the couch again, slumped, absolutely slumped. I cashed out on the couch once again for the rest of the night. There was no one to wake me up and there was no saving me, dude. I was out. I woke up the next morning and I'm not going to lie, I might have still been a little bit high, if I'm being totally honest. But Tim copped out of it the lucky way. This was the story about my time eating an entire tray of edibles. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know if you've had any similar experiences in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, gamers.